Uh, Good evening. Oh, excuse me. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Scrutiny Committee of Melton Borough Council. I'm Mike Brown, Chair of the Scrutiny Committee. Just like to run through the normal housekeeping issues before we move to the agenda. Members are reminded that we will be using the audio visual system this evening, and the meeting will also be streamed live on YouTube. Members are asked to physically raise their hands in the usual way to indicate they wish to speak. Please switch mobile phones to silent. Should you need to leave the room during the meeting, unless it's an emergency when the emergency exit should be used, please use the marked exit and entrance. Just to remind you of the evacuation procedure, in the event of having to evacuate the council chamber, please leave by the emergency exit nearest to you. Please assemble at the far side of the front car park nearest the park entrance. Officers will be on hand to assist persons who require any assistance. And as always, there is legislation that allows the public to film, record or use social media to cancel meeting. This must not be disruptive to the good order of the meeting, nor include any filming or recording of the public seating area. I'll move on to the agenda. First item is apologies for absence, and we do have apologies from councillors Cliff and Pritchett. We've also had a message from Councillor Chubb this afternoon, who unfortunately was trying to travel by train, and the mainline trains were cancelled, and he's currently hopefully in transit travelling cross country and hopes to be here by 6:45 or thereabouts this evening, Councillor Lumley. I'd just also like to extend a welcome to Councillor Butcher, who's portfolio holder for lots of things. I can't remember everything that's in your portfolio, Sharon, but Sharon's asked to attend tonight, and I'll be very happy when we get on to discussion on the inward investment strategy, which I know is your particular interest. If you want to join in the discussion, that's fine. Yeah, we don't get too formal here. I'd also like to, and on the screen behind me, there's a gentleman called John Palmer, who's going to take part in the short presentation we're going to have on an update on the cyber security programme. All right, move on to the next item, which is the minutes of the last meeting, which was held on the 22nd of January 2026. Before I asked to approve them, are there any comments or changes that people wish to propose? Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, it's on page 5, and it's the fourth paragraph down, where it says, this is to do with the food waste collection. It says, member commented that they would like the leader of the council to write to the MP expressing the view that the scheme should be axed. I think the axed should be delayed.
I think
yeah,
that's a better reflection actually of what was discussed. Yeah. Okay. So we just substitute delayed, which is actually the position that the council has adopted and is currently still making representations on that basis. Are there any other observations on the minutes? Okay, can I ask for a proposer and a seconder to approve the minutes, please? Councillor Thwaites proposed, Councillor Gordon, Councillor Lumley's seconded. I saw your hand out the corner of my eye first. Okay, can I just take a vote to approve the minutes? Those in favour? You can actually vote whether you're there or not. Yes, but there you go. It's therefore unanimous, and I'll sign those in a moment. Can I move on to declarations of interest? Are there any members who need to make any declarations in respect of tonight's business? Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, should this be discussed? I'm a member of the Waterfield Leisure Centre, but I've been advised that I can participate as I only use the equipment and facilities. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gordon. Any other declarations? Thank you. Move on to item 4, which is review of the forward plan. Now, you will have in front of you tonight an updated copy of the forward plan. It's just really a scheduling thing. The forward plan was literally just updated and it got caught in the timescale for sending the papers out. So Adam has very helpfully tabled the more up-to-date version in front of us tonight. It doesn't vary that much from the one that was circulated with the papers, does it? No. Are there any issues people want to raise in respect to the forward plan? Councillor Lumley.
I just want to raise something, and I think we have been talking about it on and off, but early last year I raised, you know, when our actual waste contract is up for to be renewed, I think I gave the idea of having, because people contact me regularly in other councils about the whole Green Waste Club is very expensive. We had a look in the idea of trying to incorporate it, what the cost would be incorporating it all together as one with a brown and black bin. Can I have an update on that? Or no, I know it's on the spot. I apologise. I don't mind. But just, I can't remember. Is it this year? I believe it's this year. It's up for renewal. But I think Michelle's going to answer now. So I'll stop. Thank you.
I don't know if I'll be able to answer your question fully, but I can certainly give you a position update. So the current contract, the first review period is 2028. Yeah, the work has started in terms of preparing for extension of that contract and the terms upon which that extension would be done. There's been a lot of complication that we outlined in the waste scrutiny workshop that we had here because of uncertainty around what to do about the food waste elements. Because the food waste is not progressing until 2028, the review of the wider contract is underway at this time. At this stage, no decisions have been taken on that, but modelling has been done in relation to all aspects of that, including the green waste. So that's probably as much as I can tell you at the moment. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for taking that into account, Chair, with Michelle. Is there any update on expansion of like Thorpe Road Cemetery, please?
So you must have read our minds from the portfolio update we had this afternoon. So officers have met with Councillor Glancy this afternoon to discuss a number of things within her portfolio, including a policy that will go before the Cabinet later this year. It will either be April or June, depending on the timeline of the review of that policy. And that will look at how we best use the cemetery and also how we can lifespan's the wrong word, maximise the longevity of the current cemetery. There is already some funding set aside for that, and that work is being procured. But we would like to put some additional funding to that had been set aside for some kind of longer term feasibility work, so that we can increase and maximise the number of plots both for burial and cremation. So the further update will be available as that policy comes forward, which I hope is helpful. But the intention is to get as much capacity from the current cemetery as possible. Thank you.
I don't know why the phrase as much capacity from the cemetery as possible makes me feel slightly uneasy, but I understand the direction of travel on this. Are there any other questions or observations relating to the forward plan? Okay.
About that. Sorry. Right. Page 4. No, it says page 16 and then put 4 of this. It says something about a relinquished clearance of debris screens. And that's going to be added 28th of April 25, but it's got not before 26th of February 26. I sort of wonder what that's all about there. It says CEX 538, relinquished clearance of debris screens. I'm sorry, it just seems a bit odd.
Okay, happy to clarify. So it was put on the forward plan when the team became aware that it was something that they would need to proceed with in time. So that's the explanation for the time delay. It links to our flood risk management. So we have done a review of all operational practices for the environmental maintenance team. And we can see that in anticipation of any kind of flood related events, we do clear a number of what we would call trash screens. Some of those are on Melton Borough Council land. Some of them actually are not on Melton Borough Council land. And of course, there becomes a liability complexity if we are carrying out that work on land that is not ours. The main reason the decision hasn't been taken yet is that we will not take that decision until we are satisfied that there are suitable alternative arrangements in place, so we don't create a risk for communities where nobody is maintaining anything. So that is why. So there aren't many in scope. I think there are 7 in total. Some of those are ours, and we'll continue to do the management on those, but there are some that we will need to ask the riparian owner to take responsibility for. Thank you.
Any other questions or observations on the forward plan? I'm going to take that as a no. But if anyone reads something later on, by all means, come back. Item 5 on the agenda is the review of the Scrutiny work programme. Now, of course, we've made some changes to the work programme that have been discussed at previous meetings, so I don't think we need to do anything other than note it. But as was explained earlier, we're going to have our cyber security strategy update under this item. Now, before I move to that, Sarah Jane is braced. Despite what I just said, does anyone need to raise any issue regarding the actual work programme? Councillor Lumley.
Regarding our presentation last year regarding asylum and immigration, is there any way we can have on every committee, this committee, sort of like regular statistics of key homes being used, how many? Only because I get contacted by a lot of the members of the public and they aren't able to get hold of this information. So as best as we can within sort of like protection rules, key information on our paperwork, so the public can see this, through the council website and just know where it's going. Thank you.
Well, I think I'll take advice from the officer on that, because as you rightly say, there are protection issues around this.
Thank you, Councillor Lumley. So in terms of giving members a real-time update in terms of our resettlement activity, my suggestion would be that we include updates through the members' bulletin so that you have insights into numbers of households that we are actively supporting. I would caution against bringing that as a routine item here for reasons of data protection. I know there have been some questions about properties, HMO properties that are being used for asylum purposes. That's certainly not something that we would be able to share routinely through the committee. What we have got is a publicly accessible register, HMO register, and there are details on our website as to how members of the public could request access to that. There is a fee for somebody to be able to request access to that, and that would identify who the license holder was. It wouldn't identify who the tenants are in a property, of course. So I hope that helps in terms of how people can get it. So we wouldn't share that routinely, but people can have access to that register if they require it. But in terms of numbers of households we're supporting within the borough, I can't see an issue in producing that through the members' bulletin, if that helps you as members.
Yeah, very grateful.
That. Okay, any other, excuse me, any other issues on the work programme? Hopefully not. Okay, shall we move on to our cyber security strategy update? And it's over to you. You first, Sarah Jane. Oh, sorry. Michelle's going to say something, then it'll be over to you. Yeah, apologise.
Thank you. I just wanted to recap on the background for members before handing over to Sarah Jane and John, who have done the hard work on the strategy. So members, you had a cybersecurity workshop some time ago, and the work that you and the feedback that you generated through that has fed into the work that has been undertaken since. And I just wanted to remind members that this is a joint strategy, joint approach, because our IT service is a shared service with Hinckley and Bosworth Borough Council. And so the next steps in terms of sign-off would require sign-off from both councils before those things could be implemented. And clearly there is a need to make sure that we've got maximum protections in place, not just from an IT perspective, but also from that wider organisational perspective, which is why we've got Sarah Jane and John both here today. So there are some questions just to ask members to think about as you're hearing the work programme update from colleagues today. So does this strategy, as outlined, reflect what you shared at the workshop that you had some time ago? Are you satisfied then that officers can proceed with sign off, which we would intend to do through portfolio holder decision. Portfolio holder for this is Sarah Cox. And is there any reason that you would find it necessary to see this strategy again, or are you content that officers have taken comments on board and can proceed? So I know, Mike, that was your sort of hope in terms of the discussion areas for this evening. But Sarah Jane, if I could hand to you to start in terms of that wider organisational perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And yeah, there's the wider organisational perspective, and there is the technical part of making sure that we protect ourselves from cyber threat. And so what we've done is we have the overarching strategy, but we've also got an action plan, which then has got the more technical information and the current threat landscape, which we will keep under review. And that sits as a separate document that we would not publish. So this is the forward front-facing document we're looking at. So going back to that workshop that we held last year, we asked about what you thought the threat landscape was, what our purpose was for the cyber strategy, what we should include and not include, what our objectives should be, and how we monitor and track success. So those were the main conversations that we had at that workshop. And so we've taken on board what you've said and hopefully reflected it in the draft document that you've got. We've taken a guidance from the government digital strategy, which is a lengthy document, but it's really useful. And so we've used a lot of the information from there to form the sort of basis of the structure of what we do. We've also taken information from the National Cyber Security Centre and attended workshops and review the information that they publish on a regular basis to check that we're up to date and understand what the threats are. As you work through the document, we talk a little bit about the context. As Michelle has explained, this is two authorities pulling together a strategy, and while it is great that we can share resources, it also means that the threat can, we need to be mindful of that when we look at the threat and the service disruption that any cyber attack could cause. And at the workshop, we looked at some examples because I think at the time, Marks and Spencers were actually going through an incident. So it was interesting to sort of play back the impact that was having. So that was really front and centre as we were talking through what we wanted from our strategy. So we've set the vision, we've set the aims and the objectives that we've got. There's 5 underpinning objectives, and they come from the UK government cyber strategy, security strategy, which are about managing, protecting, protecting against cyber security events and incidents, making sure that we can detect security incidents, minimising the impact of those, and then looking at our capability. So that's making sure that we've got the right skills, knowledge and culture within the organisation. Under each of those, we talk a little bit about how we'll do that across the whole organisation. At the workshop, we talked about how we were going to measure success, and we've included some key performance indicators, but also how we're going to measure the culture of the organisation and make sure that we continue to review what's happening and what that threat landscape and organisational context needs to be as we move forward. We've been a bit explicit around the governance and insurance and made sure we've got roles and responsibilities clearly defined there, including elected members in that, as well as our leadership, data protection and third-party suppliers are included in that. And we've talked about how we plan to implement the strategy. So, like I said, that's more the cross-cutting organisational part. We probably want to come to John, as he is obviously our technical expert and lead in this area. So I'm sure he's got more to add. John.
Hello. No, not really. I think you've covered it very well. I'll happily take any questions that people have.
Okay, well, thank you. That was we like relatively succinct presentations here at Scrutiny. Just to remind the committee before I open it up, we had our workshop, and that was really an opportunity for us to actually feed in a whole range of thoughts and concerns around this. So what we're really being asked to do tonight is to decide whether or not we feel the strategy's incorporated those concerns and comments, and therefore is the strategy at the stage at which officers can proceed to finalise it and seek approval. So on that note, I'll open it up if members wish to raise any comments or ask questions. Go on.
No, I was just going to ask, and I know Sarah Jane's touched on it, but regarding the actual Marks and Spencer, and I think it was the actual Jaguar, was it a Jaguar Land Rover? Yeah. I read some about it in depth, but did they? I just want to know, did they essentially do all that they could to cybersecurity, and they still got caught out, or did they do, or could they have spent more money, or did do more things, which we've now learned from? If that's a good question. Thank you.
I have to admit, I don't know the full ins and outs from a technical point of view. Do you, John?
Not of those particular. They were both different. One was a supply chain compromise, if I recall, and the other one was effectively somebody impersonating somebody to get a foothold and then lateral movement from there. So very different attack type. Whether those organisations have spent all the money that they could, and whether their cyber defences were as cohesive as they might be, because they're not a public sector organisation, you will probably never really get to the bottom of. There's a lot of speculation in the press, but only Marks and Spencer and JLR will probably be able to ever answer those questions fully.
Okay, if you've given us notice, Councillor, we would have invited representatives from those organisations to attend, but, and they wouldn't have come. Councillor Thwaites.
I'll talk to you about JLR afterwards, offline, if you wish. I was interested in looking at the key performance indicators, because I mean that it's a difficult area to actually do that in. But one of the things we talked about in the workshop, and without trying to do any confidentialities or whatever, but we talked about pressure testing and actually doing the testing and how you sort of measure that. And then there's a sort of second question, which is really started to come up since the workshop, which is obviously we're going to move to a different world. And have we sort of benchmarked this against, say, the counties' standards, or what we feel might happen in the future?
Do you want to answer that one, John?
So we have used the national strategy and the NCSC guidance, which all public sector authorities should really use as their baseline. We have, or I have certainly run some comparisons against some of the cybersecurity strategies that are out there, and ours is not out of kilter with those. I think we have some things in there, like our measures, that we probably are more explicit about than some, and we also probably omit some things that others have included, but we have those in our technical document for review, things like the threat landscape, for instance. But on the whole, they're sort of, we have done some benchmarking across the national the NCSC and other organisations, other public sector organisations, for our strategy. In terms of the LGR question, I think that's where what that question was really alluding to. We haven't, the ICT work stream hasn't started in earnest as yet, as far as I'm aware. And when that conversation has, I believe that then there will be a lot of conversations around cybersecurity and also making sure we have adequate and increased protections whilst the organisations are in a state of flux, because they're opportunities that cyber actors tend to focus on. Because of that flux, people being unsure as organisations go through change, there are exploitable vulnerabilities that can be jumped upon. So there will be additional vigilance, and that is certainly in my mindset as we move towards LGR.
I know the sunshine seems to have taken my voice away today. Yeah, happy with that response, yes. Thanks, yeah. Any other questions people wish to raise? Councillor Gordon.
Just to make a comment, really, I think this is a great thing to do, and especially from the perspective of the public who give in their information, and some of it is really personal, and I think it'll give them confidence. So I think this is a great thing to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I mean, my only observation is that, I mean, certainly I feel that our input through the workshop is reflected in the document, and I'm very content that it now goes forward. I did hear today, quite interestingly, that apparently we're world leaders on cybersecurity, which is a bit worrying when you think about somewhat more powerful countries not being as good as us at cybersecurity. But apparently it's one of our specialities as a country, so we're winning at something. If there are no further questions, I think I'll just take a show of hands that people are content to go with the recommendations that are here, that it goes forward now. That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we move on to item 6, which is inward investment strategy. And we're going to get sorry, page 36. So we've
Yeah, I'm sorry going backwards, but
We are.
we didn't seem to talk about these things. You know, with economic growth to town centre and things like that. We've not talked about those.
sorry.
I know we went on to this, but this is in. Right, where are we? Here. Yeah, 33 to 40, and this is 36. Page 36. Or, yeah. And I wanted to know why I only found out that there was going to be a meeting to walk around the town to see what best we could do with the town, and I didn't get it on my laptop till 10 o'clock this morning.
I'm a bit in the dark about.
Oh, it's a meeting. I have a meeting round the town today to noticing things. It says so. It only came up today.
I think Ronan responded on it because all of a sudden work commitments or whatever, essentially.
Right. Well, you know, I get everything slowly, but it came up this morning, and I thought, well, I can't quite. You know, it said market day as well.
Lydia, can you comment on that?
Yeah, I think it's in relation to the conservation area appraisal, which is supporting our approach towards heritage investment across the borough and in the town. There are 2 events planned, one that took place today, which was a public facing event. So there was a stall within the marketplace, and there is a separate event planned for member engagement, which I believe is at some point in April, and the date has been clarified to members today.
Thank you for that. I mean, I actually did go down.
Leave that, you know, I wanted to.
Yeah, I understand. I actually did go down today and met with the conservation officer, which was very useful, I found. But I know there's the members event that's coming up in due course.
Mr. Chairman, you know, I'm very saddened to look at our town the way I've looked at it for many years, not just the town, the shops, etc., but the actual market, the street market. It's appalling now. No, it used to go right down Sherrard Street. After all, that's where the cattle market was, on Sherrard Street years ago, and it was vibrant. I went in at about 12:30 to get some fish and what have you. There was just nobody there, really. It wasn't bustling. There were just a few stalls. It's just so sad. And I always try and go to a vegetable stall near Boots always. And, you know, I try to do things like that. And it's just, I don't know what we can do, but I would like to think, I'm sure the cabinet holder agrees with me, how difficult it is, life is with people, but the town, you know, it was a vibrant town, and now, unfortunately, we just seem to be going the other way. Thank you.
I mean, I think many of us would agree that, sorry, Councillor Gordon, I'm not going to extend this discussion because I'm going to stick to the agenda now. But we've got the presentation on inward investment, which I think will address some of those issues, and we can have a discussion on the back of that, if you're happy to wait. Okay, can I go hand over to you, Lydia?
Thank you very much. Just make sure. Oh, yes, it is working. Sorry. You have a presentation that Lee and I are going to provide this evening regarding the inward investment activity that we undertake in relation to the council's approach to supporting growth across the borough. What we're asking the committee this evening is to appreciate your feedback and comments about our approach to this. It's very much in collaboration with our place marketing organisation, which is a jointly funded organisation between the City Council and the County Council, known as Invest in Leicester or Invest in Leicestershire. And the second area is to provide, we're asking for some feedback on some of the future opportunities and initiatives that we're looking to undertake. So I'm going to provide you with an oversight of the programme of activity, and then I'm going to hand over to my colleague Lee, who's going to provide an update on the activity that we've done to date and what we're planning to do in the future, and then I will summarise at the end as to what the outcome that we are hoping to achieve through all this activity. So I hope from the, you also have within your pack a briefing document that gives you far more information. Can I just highlight there is a typo in one of the tables, so some of the figures are incorrect. We will send an update out following this meeting on those figures. I've just spotted it when I've been reviewing the papers. So the programme, as I said previously, is very much a collaborative approach to inward investment, which we work on with our place marketing organisation. And we've been undertaking this approach over the last 30 months. So what is the purpose of inward investment? We work closely with that place marketing organisation to not only enhance and promote Melton as a place to invest in, but we also work very closely with investors and developers and organisations that want to invest in a place. So that can be anything from housing developments through to organisations and businesses that are looking at developing new businesses, or even attracting those into the town centre, and you'll hear about some of that work that we've been doing. We have to work in partnership. Melton is a great place to invest in. However, we have much stronger opportunities by leveraging in that partnership by working across Leicestershire. The priorities over the last 18 months have been not only raising the profile, but engaging with businesses. That's attracting investment into Melton Borough, but also working with our businesses that are here to support them and to support their growth ambitions. We've also been looking at strategic land development, and our focus, particularly from the portfolio holder, has been how do we have that focus and determination really to improve the town centre, particularly looking at how we can strengthen the economy in that area and ensuring that when we have investment inquiries that we can respond to them in a quick and efficient manner. You'll hear about what we're looking at to do in the future, not just a one size fits all for Melton, but really looking at how we can drive investment into the place that is attracting businesses, that in turn attracts people and people to live and also to work here. So looking at opportunities for skilled employment into the area. And this is outlined in our inward investment strategy. And there's been a significant amount of work that has gone into that strategy and plan that we've been following. A key component of the work has also been working collaboratively to raise the profile of Melton at national and international events. So our partners have been in MIPIM, which is in France, over the past few days. At the end of last week, raising the profile of Leicestershire. And more locally in Leeds, there is an event called UK REEF, which stands for the UK's Real Estate Investment and Infrastructure Forum. So anybody that is looking to invest or develop their business gravitates to those two events over the course of the year. And we've had a presence at both of those through our relationship with the Place Marketing Organisation. And that really helps not just raise the profile of Melton, but also aids that relationship building, which is so key to driving inward investment. So if I can hand over to Lee, please, to talk us through some of the key activity to date. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. So some of this we've been through in the introduction, so I'll go through by exception, but this is essentially a summary of what we've undertaken over the last 12 months as part of that kind of 30-month arrangement that we've had with the PMO. That has been funded by, or was funded by, UKSPF, and we've got agreement for some additional funding moving forward. Obviously, part of this discussion is kind of where that funding goes towards and what we do with that as well. So to date, we've had a very successful relationship with the PMO. I think kind of some of the key bits that I'd like to draw out from this slide is around facilitating development opportunities at strategic sites. There had been some sites that were designated employment that had stalled and not come forward for whatever reason. By utilising our relationship with the PMO, we've been able to get investors and developers interested in those sites. That's not just within Melton Mowbray, but also kind of the wider area. There's examples up in Bottisford and elsewhere as well. Those are ongoing negotiations, so I can't necessarily go into the detail, but we are meeting with them on a regular basis to encourage that investment and to put forward kind of the benefits of investing in Melton and why they should look to do so. And they're promising discussions underway at this moment in time. I think another key bit as well in terms of when we attract inward investment is competitive by its very nature. If you secure a business, they are there for the future. So we are up against multiple other towns in Leicestershire and the wider East Midlands area. So one of the key things that we've been looking to do is around kind of galvanising and convening our internal services to make sure that they're able to respond efficiently and effectively to the inquiries as and when we receive them, because they do come from everywhere. We get them through customer services, we get them direct to the regen team, we obviously get them through planning as well. So it's not just about making sure that first contact and then it's lost, it's about ensuring that it gets to the right people in the organisation to essentially account manage those businesses when they land in the area, whether they be businesses from out of the area investing or internal businesses that are looking to grow and push or create kind of jobs and careers for our local residents. So great example of one of the successes that we've had to date. Obviously Saint-Gobain. Obviously there was a lot of press and bad news in regards to them shutting down their existing site at Holwell Works. Through the work that we've managed to do with the PMO over the last 18 months to 2 years, we're actually able to secure a UK first in Melton, expected to be up to £100 million worth of investment. Significant skills and jobs created. Saint-Gobain is a international company, turnover around £45 billion, and so having their name in Melton is a great thing for us. And with that comes significant opportunity for our residents in terms of kind of upskilling and working in the first low carbon stone wool installation part in the UK, which is a critical part of national infrastructure for the supply chain for housing and home building in the area. To give an example of, this isn't just about securing the investment and then walking away. We are having regular conversations with Saint-Gobain. They've presented at some of our England investment roundtable events, and we're also having ongoing discussions with them and bringing DWP and other support services around the table to look at when we can get involved in enabling them to utilise or recruit locally, and to ensure that we're maximising benefits locally as well. Some of you may have been present. They've done a lot of work in regards to community consultation as well. Really informing people about kind of the heritage and history of the site and what they're looking to do in its future as well. So, going above and beyond to ensure that we're able to land that investment, making sure that their experience of investing in Melton is a pleasant one, and then hopefully that has an impact on word of mouth discussions. People being positive about Melton as a place to invest. So again, been through a bit of this, but as I mentioned previously, one of the kind of core underpinning principles that we've been given direction around from Cabinet is around focus on the town centre. Drawing on your points earlier, Councillor Holmes, town centre and strategic sites are incredibly important for us. And I've just kind of highlighted some of the activity that's gone over in the last 12 months. There are some opportunities, and I've taken probably 4 or 5 investors for a walk around the town to show them where those opportunities exist. Co-op buildings, the mall recently up for sale and I believe it's been purchased. So generating significant interest in the wider site, as well as some more kind of strategic site acquisitions across the wider area, with people contacting us with an interest in areas like Schoolford Hall and the like as well. So giving them information around what red lines are around that. Obviously, great news over the last couple of days. Large-scale change of use proposals at Pira have been granted. So significant investment into that building, hoping to build, I think it's 6 new paddle courts, reform of Pilates, some healthcare, some drop-in kind of day working space for businesses as well. So really kind of diversifying kind of Pira as a key core town centre, economic generator, and providing a different offer for the people of Melton as well. And then, as I touched on earlier, we've put a lot of effort into having a more coordinated stakeholder engagement across Melton, undertaking roundtables, not just to pat ourselves on the back, but to get genuine feedback around how people think about Melton as a place to invest, what their experience of Melton as a place to invest is, and then to enable them to go away with information and act as ambassadors on our behalf. And we've seen again some positive responses off the back of that as well. So really positive work underway there as a result of the partnership with the PMO. We've probably had about 5 roundtables now. We've seen them get bigger every time. We're probably up to an attendance of around 40 whenever we go now, and our distribution list is ever increasing as well. So really valuable forums for us to be able to adapt and to the concerns or the positives that are being raised by the investment and developer community, as well as our local businesses. So in terms of one of the other key areas, obviously promotion engagement, it's not just about kind of going out and networking, and there's a lot of work that we've been doing with the PMO in regards to our internal account management. So working with local businesses that want to grow, how we can support them in with that growth journey, how we can ensure that they're staying within Melton instead of moving elsewhere and taking jobs with them. as part of that work, we've had kind of a complete overhaul of the promotion and engagement, and then the method and the tone in which we engage from an inward investment point of view as well. So, not just attendance at events like UK Wreath, but also kind of ensuring that we have inward investment maps that highlight where key investments can be undertaken in Melton, that we can take to these forums and give people a snapshot of what is available in the area. We've also kind of completely overhauled the inward investment section on the Discover Melton website to make that, based on feedback we've received to date, to make that more user friendly and to improve accessibility and give people to access to information in a quicker and more meaningful way. And as you can see there, just an example of a post on, I think that was LinkedIn, about some of the work that we've been doing with the PMO around UK Reef, which had a significant reach into the investment community that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to achieve without the links in with the PMO due to their expertise in this space. Again, inward investment doesn't sit within a silo. There's significant other work that we undertake as a council, as a department, to support investment into these areas. So, for example, I've listed 4 there. There's many more. Town Centre Design Guide, that started as a design guide off the back of some feedback that we had around there being a lack of coordination and curation in shopfront signage and numerous other, the town centre looking a bit busy. So developed the Town Centre Design Guide. That ultimately became an SPD and got approval to provide a framework for enhancing public, but also something that we can utilise for enforcement if we need to. The feedback on that has been so positive that it was suggested to us that we should submit that to an award for the planning awards, which has now been done, and we're awaiting a response on that. As you'll all be aware, there's a wider asset development programme, which is about how we leverage our public sector investment to secure private sector investment, and that sits within a wider kind of cultural and heritage initiative and programme that we're running to look at how we can boost quality of life, the visitor economy, through promoting the benefits of kind of culture, heritage-based investment in the area. And obviously, as part of that, one of the key things that we're looking at is a submission for Town of Culture with an expression of interest due in March, of the 31st of March. And then I couldn't really do a presentation on inward investment without reference to the Stockyard project. That will be £13.6 million of investment, public sector funding, going into the town centre area, significant investment creating additional units and already creating significant buzz. We're getting interest from people that are wanting to move into those spaces, and we've not even got spades in the ground yet. So we're expecting significant positives and spillover benefits as a result of that. Obviously, a key part of the Stockyard project as well is to turn that area into a destination. It's our biggest footfall generator on market days. We want that to be 7 days a week, not just 2 or 3. So really pushing that as a destination offer as well through the enhancement of the event infrastructure that we have in that space also. In terms of next steps, so again, I think this is kind of what is up for discussion today, and obviously your kind of feedback to cabinet on, and we can take forward. These are some of the things that we're kind of recommending that we take forward into next year. As of the 1st of April, our current agreement with the PMO ends on the 31st of March. We believe there is much merit in retaining the expertise that they have available to us and utilising that funding. We think we get significant value for money from that. If you look at the work that they've done on key sites like St. Gobain and how they supported that alone, the return on investment to our communities, is multiple times more than what we kind of pay for that service. We're also looking at other areas around how we can make Melton more attractive to developers by having very kind of case specific conditions and eligibility around a potential investment fund. Likely more work needs to be done around that, but discussions ongoing at an SLT level with finance around how we can utilise some of our internal funding to make the area more attractive. Business ambassador programme, so a natural progression from the inward investment roundtable events that we do, is how we can use our business leaders as ambassadors for place. You know, they speak to supply chains, they go to industry events, how we can ensure that they've got the information to hand in an easily memorable way that they can start speaking very, very positively about Melton, and you know, really pushing Melton as a place that's great for investment, and you know, more importantly, is easy to invest in as well. And to that point, you know, the works that we're doing around the planning productivity plan to try and streamline that process and give investors confidence that once they submit an application to us, it will be dealt with in an efficient and more importantly, compliant manner, to ensure that they're very, very aware of what we expect of them from an application, but also what they will get in return. Looking at the use of PPAs and other kind of tools that we've got available to support that process. And then another area that we've been doing for the last year and we've seen significant benefit from, but key account management. So, you know, speaking to our businesses and ensuring that they've got a single point of contact within the local authority. Local authorities can be confusing environments for businesses at times, and trying to support them find a way through that by providing single points of contacts for all businesses that come forward, whether they be investing in the area or whether they already exist, is something that we would like to strengthen and do more around, to really create that positive relationship with our business community in the area. I think
Thank
I'm going to
you.
hand over to Nydia for this
Okay.
part.
I wanted to highlight some of the positive feedback that we've already been receiving. Lee has kindly highlighted the significant effort and work that has gone into the Sangaban, but more recently, the development of the Pira Business Park, and the developer that we had regular meetings with recently sent a comment through, which I'd like to share with you all this evening. It says, local authorities and planning departments often get a lot of criticism. So it's only fair to say when things work well, the team at Melton are excellent. The entire process from initial engagement was efficient, constructive, and they were genuinely interested in what we're trying to create. Credit where it's due. I appreciate that's only one example, but that is the approach that we want to embed across the regeneration and planning team into the future. And that's a really key component of our planning productivity plan as it goes forward. Some of the other expected outcomes, and within your briefing pack, you have some of our current key performance indicators that we track. So kind of business growth, skills development. But I think it's important to highlight some of the outcomes as well as outputs, because this type of work takes time. It's about building relationships. It's about spending time with those investors and developers. And I wish I could share some of the exciting news that we have forthcoming, but a lot of the work that we do is confidential until it gets to a point that we can announce it, like Sangaban. And I can assure you that that work is ongoing across the borough, not just in the town centre. So the 4 areas that I've picked out is obviously increasing investor awareness and making the most of those positive comments that we receive back. That in turn leads to a increased quality of life for our residents, because you've got that investment coming into the area, but also creation of jobs and employment for local residents. Town centre vitality, I think it's really particularly pertinent today. So we are in the middle of British Tourism Week this week, and yesterday there was the launch of the local visitor economy partnership destination management plan. That's a mouthful, isn't it? It's an LVEP DMP, because we love acronyms, don't we, in local government. But that has really raised the profile of the visitor economy throughout Leicester and Leicestershire. And I think that's a really key component. Tourism was once described as the front door to investment. It what helps sells the place. And we were fortunate, I think, in Leicestershire to attract the chairwoman of Visit England and Visit Britain to that launch yesterday. So having that national profile for Leicestershire is really important. I do have some copies of the destination management plan if you'd like to have a look at them later, and you'll be pleased to see that Melton features strongly within that plan. That's a really important component of town centre vitality. It's a mixture of getting that local pride in place, getting the local footfall up, as well as visitors into the area, as well as investment. The third area is around collaboration with employers. I think that's highlighted through Lee's summary of the key account management that we've been undertaking, but also the proactive approach that we've taken with business engagement. So we regularly, in partnership with the Business Improvement District, host a business forum, which is growing from, I think it started with about 12 businesses attending, and we had over 50 at the last event. We also have a strong food and drink network, which is expanding. So we're having more and more businesses come from across the borough and even outside our boundaries to that food and drink network, which is supporting not just growth, obviously aimed at the stockyard development, but also across the area as well. And then finally, in terms of skills ecosystem strengthening. So this is really looking at how we work with that investment to develop the opportunities for local residents to develop the skills. So working with colleges, further educational providers and businesses to support development. And a good example of that has already been with Sangaban. So having like careers fairs events to focus and to support engagement with the local schools as well as local residents to support when they are looking at opening and developing their recruitment process in the future. So there are the 4 areas that I wanted to highlight as what you would expect to see over the as a result of the inward investment activity. And then finally, I just wanted to say how this complements the other activity that the regeneration team has done, which Lee has highlighted. So that investment in culture, heritage and tourism is complementary to the inward investment activity. It cannot sit in isolation. And I hope that that's come forward in our presentation, that it's a collaborative approach with partners and businesses, but it's also complementary to our existing work in the regeneration team, as well as with other teams across the council. Thank you.
Excuse me, does the portfolio holder wish to add anything at this stage?
I'd like to thank the team. They go above and beyond. They grasp every opportunity they can to push our town. In answer to Elaine's mention on the markets, is there is a lot more competitiveness on the Saturdays. There's a lot more markets on the Saturdays, so that's why Town Estate are struggling on the Saturdays, and also with the health and safety gone mad. It's hard to do it on the Sherrard Street anymore and do it safely. So that's why Sherrard Street isn't used for the markets anymore. But Sherrard Street, because of the health and safety, because you're actually on the road while the traffic's running up and down the road. So that's why they've had to take a step back from putting the market stalls on the Sherrard Street itself. Someone did get clipped a few years ago. They got clipped. Yeah, it was made wider, but that doesn't stop crazy drivers. But yeah, so that is just why that stopped. But the Melton Bid are doing a lot of work with the Town Estate now, so I'd like to think that's going to grow as well as the work that the team do for all our plans that we've got for inward investment.
Thank you. I could make a cheeky observation. If there was any enforcement on illegal parking on Sherrard Street, it'd be a lot less hazardous, but of course that's no longer a police matter. And anyone who goes up there regularly will understand exactly what I'm saying. Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. I'm afraid I have quite a few questions, but I'll come to my turn in due course. So I open it up to members of the committee. Councillor Chubbasall first.
Thank you very much. Apologies for my late arrival. Slightly tortuous journey across from Leeds. Lee and Lydia, thank you both very much indeed. I applaud the work that's been done, particularly with engaging with businesses and the collaborative approach, which is very helpful and very good to hear. And again, congratulations on Saint-Gobain. In terms of inward investment, I think the perception always is that it's engaged and targeted at much larger companies. Maybe I'm wrong there, but that's the kind of general perception. You mentioned a lot about the town centre. I think from being such a rural borough, it would be interesting to understand a little bit more how this is translating to our rural economy, particularly rural businesses and the skills, and also I talk about the inward investment, the bigger companies. How is it translating to the smaller operators as well? Both of them, both the rural community and the smaller operators, are facing many challenges, as we know. Talking to local businesses, the increasing taxation, NI, etc., is all causing a lot of angst and challenges. In addition to that, Lee, you mentioned about the work being done with engaging with developers. It's good to hear, particularly around the industrial area. But again, working within the development community, I know that the challenges that are facing us all at the moment, particularly with costs, not least some of the challenges created from planning. What are we doing again that is over and above competing nations? So those are the areas that I'm interested in, particularly the rural and the smaller businesses, because this is where we create jobs, we create wealth, and it reflects the borough. And just on a final note, I know in terms of the papers, there was a slight error, and also the briefing paper. If we can get them out earlier, because I get a lot of papers and reports to read, I just haven't had a chance to go through them and to give it meaning. If we can sort that out in the future, that would be really helpful. But those are my kind of comments and observations from hearing the presentation. And thank you again.
I mean, can I say from the chair that point about the papers has been a matter of discussion, which I won't elaborate on. Okay, did you want to respond to anything that Councillor Chubb said before I go to the next one?
Thank you. So the investment in rural areas, there are several live inquiries currently. I would suggest they're probably more medium-sized business investment inquiries where we're working proactively with those organisations. I really wish I could announce what they were tonight, but I can't. So some of that work has been so they've come through our place marketing organisation. We've worked with the developer. We've put them in touch with our planning colleagues, and we've ensured that we've been following up. I say we, Lee primarily has been following up with them on a regular basis. We do letters of support to encourage that. We've also leveraged in other stakeholders. So there's a site in Bottisford where they had some challenges in terms of infrastructure that was required. So we set up a meeting with National Grid to facilitate whether there was an opportunity for them to resolve some of those issues with them. So wherever possible, although we have been focused on the town centre, that's not to the exclusion at all. And actually, we're seeing a lot of investment inquiries across the borough and into rural areas. The latest one, which should be announced shortly, is in the region of
Just under 50, yeah.
Just under 50 new jobs coming into a new rural business, and it'll be the development of the sites. It'll be a new building and new jobs and advanced manufacturing as well, so high quality jobs as well. So I hope that answers the investment into rural areas. The second area is around SMEs. Yes, we do focus particularly around inward investment on those larger, medium, large scale businesses because of the employment opportunities. However, we do not miss the opportunity to work with SMEs, and that's been around our work with the Business Forum and also with the Food and Drink Network. So wherever possible, we try to bring those together to provide opportunities and signpost to support or leverage opportunities for their development and growth. So we will signpost to, we have an economic development officer that can help with business support or grants, or we signpost to our colleagues at County Council or other funding streams. The other element to the SME support is also sectoral. So looking at Melton and looking at where the opportunities are for SME growth, Obviously, through the stockyard, we've been very proactive with food, drink and farming businesses. And then through the visitor economy has been a lot of focus on that. So working collaboratively with our partners, not just at the city and county, but also at Leicestershire Promotions to look at how we can support smaller hospitality, tourism businesses that enables them to develop. So that might be along the themes of sustainability or accessibility. So ensuring that maybe we could get better value for doing training schemes around accessibility that businesses can benefit from. And that collective effort then makes a much bigger difference to SMEs. And then in terms of the final one, I saved the best for last, what do we do to go over and above for planning? We are not there yet. This is definitely work in progress. We have a planning productivity plan, which is an improvement plan for our planning service. Planning services across the UK are challenged, as I'm sure most of the people around the room tonight appreciate. There are a lot of changes nationally. However, we've taken a very proactive approach, and in relation to inward investment, one of the streams of work is to bring together our regeneration and planning teams to work more effectively together. So when we get those inquiries, we have an easier route through the planning system. So we know that those inward investment inquiries, when they come through, and the PERA was a really good example of that we supported that process. The other element in terms of the larger scale investment is we are very proactive in promoting pre-planning agreements. That gives the investor confidence that they have a gold standard planning service through. It's a payment, and we can legally we can request that payment from them to support them, but it gives them that dedicated resource, and I think that's a really important component. We've also learned lessons from other local authorities where those PPAs are in place and have leveraged investment into their places, so that we're learning from other places, but then that's hopefully going to put us over and above in terms of planning. But I would ask members to consider that this is an improvement programme that we are in progress with. It has oversight from a board, and we're tracking that progress as we go through. We're not there yet. We know there's some improvement still to do.
Councillor Gordon.
Yes, this is going to be about business rates, which are quite high. How will you encourage businesses to come concerning this? Because I know there's been a lot of complaints about the business rates.
In terms of business rates, they are obviously set nationally through the, I think it's through, is it the Market Towns Group? I might, if I can bring in my colleague Lee, because he's been doing some work about how we can raise the profile of challenges that businesses face on a national scale, because we don't set the business rates locally.
Yeah, understand business concerns around business rates and other kind of increases around national insurance that they're facing at the moment. From an inward investment perspective, it's not an area of competition because the rates apply, at a national level across the area. So the rates in a rural area in Melton are broadly going to be the same as the rates in a rural area in Harbour or Rutland. However, we appreciate it is an issue and an ongoing concern. So through the Market Towns Research Group, I'm taking claim for someone else's work here. The county council led that group in pulling together a kind of lobbying document that was sent to government. I think there was 4 examples given of businesses in Melton and where business rates had impacted them negatively, to kind of get across the point to government about the impact that was having on small businesses. That was sent, I want to say, earlier this year. I don't think we've heard anything back from it, but it's something we're acutely aware of. Obviously, we as the local authority essentially collect it on behalf of the government and hand it out. So there's not too much we can do in that space ourselves.
Okay, a number of members have indicated, so I'll take them in the order I first saw them. So Councillor Lumley.
Yeah, I've not got questions as such, but I might do, at another time after others have spoken. But yeah, I just wanted to just obviously say, obviously being political here, because I think it's, you know, this is a big thing. But I think since our election in 2023, May 2023, I think certainly this council, from political will, we've done a lot more to the town centre than, you know, than anything before. Huge improvements. I mean, I've seen improvements around the town. Saying thank you to obviously the team, Lydia and Lee, team, for obviously trying to attract, you know, different types of shops to Melton. And I know some have closed down recently, but you did try to get these people. I was certainly emailing officers and Sharon about getting different shops into Melton. I was contacted some other chains to come to Melton. Some said yes, so we'll think about some. So you have done a lot. I mean, I think you see other towns around the country and other inner city areas, and they look still drab. There don't seem to be a lot of attention. But I think Melton, I generally think you've tried hard. I think you've also done well with the MMTE, the actual town estates, who at one time were, I have to say, were pretty poor. And the last few years, I think they've really, I know they've got a new CEO recently, a couple of years back, but I think they've done a lot of hard work now. When you look at them on sort of like social media, they're doing a lot more now than they've ever done. I think certainly last year was a big success, and that's the work of this council as well. You know, having a more, you know, having to you know, sort of, you know, and not see them in person, you know, trying to get a way forward with things. A lot of hard work. I'm grateful of that. Yeah, and obviously with the actual stockyard again, really good work, a lot of hard work. Obviously, just to let you know, obviously I do get a lot of emails from the public in my ward, and obviously the wider town and the borough. And I think the biggest things that they actually sort of like say to me is that we are the actual rural capital of food, but when you drive into Melton, I don't think you'd actually think we are. Yes, it's a pork pie shop, and yes, you see the stockyard. Don't get me wrong, I said a lot of hard work's gone into it, but you just see like an average town centre. And I know the previous director of planning and place, which was Pranali, I don't mean interim, Caroline, but she was on about to me getting some sort of like steakhouses to come to Melton, you know, using parts of Melton. I don't know what's happened with that idea, but things like that. But I think if we're going to be the actual rural capital of food, when you drive into Melton, you've got to really see it is. It's not just about, you know, because as I said, we just had the Pie Awards. That's a big thing. That's a national item. So that's really good. There are things that we do. It is a lot, but I just think just trying to get that observation as well. The other thing as well is with the stockyard, and it's this on social media all the time, the public think we're putting all of our money into there and we're not doing anything to the town centre. So I reply back and I ring people, see them in person. I say, no, we are doing the town centre, but they generally think we're not. I just wish we could put something out, say, look, we are investing in the town centre. I know it takes time and that. I just feel that we've been sort of talking about improvements in the town centre for such a long time. We keep having another consultation. Like, I just thought we'd got to grips with the town centre parking strategy, but now we're having a public consultation. And I just feel when it comes to the LGR in a couple of years, I just hope these things ever come to light. It's not just put under the long grass and we never see the light of day, because the car parking has got to significantly improve. I'm guessing, and if you could explain this to me more, one of you, but I know there's an issue with the app cost. My view is ultimately when people go to a car park in Melton, they just want to park, pay by cash or card, that's it. Many people don't want to have to go on an app and pay. I know it's available and that, but I just think we just got to keep it very simple. If that's it, if the app is a cost, then just axe it. But if you can tell me more, we have to, fine. And yeah, just another thing as well, actually, I might just get it in now. In terms of people wanting to get hold of Melton Borough Council, an entrepreneur, a person or business wanting support, how easy is that? Is there an email address on the website? Yeah, I know there was one email address that was being used. I've known for the last few years. I won't admit to say it on it because I'm not sure if it's more private, but I'm assuming it's that one. But yeah, thank you.
do you want to respond to any of those points now or save it up?
No,
Yeah.
I'm happy to respond now. I'm more than happy to share the list of town centre improvements and the investment that's gone into that. And we have been pushing it out, but we can continue to do that. In relation to the rural capital of food, I absolutely agree with you. It is so important that we live up to that name. And I hope that what's been demonstrated tonight, that through the stockyard, and we're not there yet, we know we've still got to get the spades in the ground and deliver that project. That's one component alongside the work that we're doing with the food and drink network, the work to raise the profile of Melton, the increase in housing, all those different elements will support that investment. And that's why I wanted to come across tonight, that it's not just a one size fits all. We've been looking at skilled employment, focusing on investment that brings that, focusing on the visitor economy, and focusing on food and drink and farming that aligns with the corporate strategy of the council. And then finally, it was interesting because I was presenting today at a tourism forum in terms of across Leicestershire and what's important to visitors. And over the 20 years that I've worked in tourism, car parking and toilets are two of the key points that people know wherever they go, whether that's a visitor attraction or whether that's a town centre. So in terms of improvements, the car parking machines do need replacing, and we have a programme to do that. There is a consultation out at the moment to look at the best methodology to enable that car parking income to come in, and that car parking income is absolutely critical to maintaining the car parks as well. And then secondly, I think it's important to note that the change in consumer behaviour has been significant. We've seen that with online shopping, and we see that in terms of car parking. People want something that's quick and easy to use. I can guarantee you the new car parking machines will all be card friendly. However, it would be worthwhile bearing in mind the data that we have is that I think it's nearly 60% of users currently use the app. So what I wouldn't recommend as an officer is taking away something that is highly used by the public. However, I do feel that the improvements are needed to enable that more efficient service alongside having an option to pay by card. So, and that is a programme of work that will be forthcoming over the next financial year. And the current administration have set that budget aside to enable those machines to be purchased and to be installed.
Thank you. Before I come to Councillor Thwaite, I'm slightly peeved with Councillor Lumley because the first item I got on my list of comments was the issue about where do you find any of this rural food in the rural capital of food when you come to Melton. So I'm glad to see. But what I would say is that there's a lot here about food production, and we've got a lot of food producers in the area. I think it's the retail side. And I had, as just an aside, I had an interesting conversation with an independent trader in town today. Connie's Cakes and Coffee, well worth a visit. I think we're allowed to plug local businesses here, aren't we? And it came up in the conversation, it'd be really good if there was somewhere to go and buy cheese. And I said, well, there's a cheese shop. And this is somebody who's traded for a year in Melton, but wasn't aware of the cheese shop just around on Windsor Street. So I think there's still a way to go. But we need more of those sort of local food outlets. And I can stop then teasing Matthew O'Callaghan about pulling off one of the great magician's tricks and getting us named the rural capital of food, even though you can't find the food when you come into town. So I'll just make those comments now rather than come back to it at a later date. But I think it is a key issue. Can I just wait one more cheeky comment? I'll come to you, Councillor Thwaite. I was in a car park in Rushcliffe last week, and I heard two people very vocally complaining. One was complaining because they'd walked up to a machine and it only took coins and they wanted to pay by card. And the other one going to the other machine, which was only taking card, and they wanted to pay by coins. So I think whichever way you go on the car parking, you ain't going to win. As long as it's straightforward, probably is the best we can hope for. Okay, Councillor Thwaite.
Thank you, Chair. Well, while we're plugging businesses, And I differ from Simon, Councillor Lumley. I think the outlets, food outlets in town has actually improved over the last 2 years. Places like the Knolls, etc. And if places like the Knolls can actually make it work, that will encourage others. And so I think it's down to all of us to support that, because that really starts to elevate what's available in town. That wasn't really my point, but I also want to pick up on, I think there is an interesting point to say that within the borough, there are 3 distinct different types of area. There is the town, there is the rural, and then there's also Bottisford, and each one of them has a different set of opportunities to deliver to new companies sort of coming into the area, and that should be so. I think some of the things you've said, and we've already got a couple of companies in the rural areas that are leading technology companies, and using those and sort of elevating those through. But that sort of really comes through to my main point, which was, and we've discussed it slightly before, which is, to me, it's the metrics that we need to have within this, not only to show the success that you've had, but it's also to sort of say, well, what are we looking at for the future? Because that's what really means things to anybody in the street, to sort of say, well, are we expecting another 150, 1,000 jobs? Are we expecting another 20,000 people a year on the footfall? And those are the things that sort of display the size of the ambition, and also the return on investment that we're putting into it. So to me, some of the parts that are missing from this are those metrics, to say, this is what we want to achieve. This is what we have achieved, because I think you've done some fantastic things. And again, I don't want to denigrate from that, because there's been some fantastic things. But we need to sort of see the size of the ambition. And I think that then also gives a good message to those other companies as well, that is sort of saying, yeah, if we've got 6,000 new houses coming into the town, plus all the people that are here, plus all of the rest of the borough as well. Well, one of the questions I get on a regular basis as chair of planning, well, you're putting all these houses in, where are they going to work? And I think that's the sort of thing where we should be showing that ambition, to say that's where we want to get the new companies, and that's the targets we're aiming at, because I think we always should have some sort of targets, and putting those publicly, and then sort of measuring how we're actually doing against them. Because again, I know it's probably some of we discussed some of the figures in the report. It's difficult to actually work out, and when you're looking at how many people are employed in the borough, it's bouncing up and down, which I can't believe is actually true. So, I mean, it's also getting an understanding of what those figures are and how they're built up. But really, it's the metrics going forward that, to me, I'm interested in, to know how big our ambition is. How many new jobs are we going to bring in? How many new people do we expect to go through town? How many new shops? That sort of thing, and build that into this plan.
Can I respond on that? An excellent point, and I think we need to demonstrate to members, but also ahead of local government reorganisation, where we want to aim for in terms of those metrics. So we can capture data like footfall, we can capture visitor economy data, as I've included in the briefing. The information that we have tends to be provided from national statistics in terms of business growth. We also rely on our partners like the Business Improvement District. I know James at the BID has shared information regarding occupancy rates as well, and we capture all that within our key performance indicators and our performance measures that come to members. But we welcome any other metrics that you feel would be appropriate, and we can incorporate that as part of our regular updates on inward investment. And I think that's going to be even more important as we go forward. So capturing jobs created, and I can say how many hopefully will come through Sangaban, how many we're going to have through future inward investment inquiries, the value of that investment. But I would not caution, but highlight the fact that it takes time. It's taken probably over a year of negotiation, meetings, support to put in place to land that Saint-Gobain deal, and that's been a collaborative effort. So my only ask is that you can bear in mind that time frame, I suppose, for achieving those statistics, and then our reliance on some of our partners for providing that information to us as well.
Just come briefly back, Phil. Yeah, I understand that and agree with that. But it's actually, like I said, the size of that ambition, you know, to demonstrate to the outside world and everybody in the borough, you know, are we doing all this work for 50 jobs or 200 jobs or 500 jobs? That's the sort of the size of the ambition that, you know, we need to demonstrate to the outside world. And I know it's a difficult one to say, and say, can we do it or not? But it's an important thing to demonstrate. That's what the target is, and I think that should be public.
I mean, what I'd suggest is that we take that away and provide the baseline figure, and then a reasonable opportunity of growth. So that might be a percentage increase or a number. I mean, I'd suggest, you know, a doubling or a 20 or 30% that is realistic and achievable, but also is aspirational as well for our borough and our residents.
Sorry, Councillor Holmes next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to commend both of you for your presentation, especially Lee, when you were talking about the business rates. Now, there is a consortium trying to talk, but we're going to talk to our MP very soon. I don't know whether you are aware that globally, in our small area, there's at least 300 million a year generated in this borough. It's a lot of money. Where we are going to get people to actually invest, I would like to think maybe, which I've gone on for many years about this, that the factories or businesses should be, if we're having a bypass, somewhere on a bypass, because that seems to be sensible to me. But you have got to have business to keep the people who smaller houses, etc., etc. They've got to work somewhere, and I quite agree with my colleague here. You have to, you've got to have business to keep people. You can't, if they've got nowhere to work, you know. So we have got to encourage that. There are quite lots of things, but I've actually. Oh, I know. Yes, there was another thing that you mentioned about, and that was loos. Now, these loo things come up all the time. There, you know, there was like people park at go across to Witherspoons, don't they? Witherspoons, rather. Well, it used to be a loo on the corner where the disabled bit is, because I opened that years ago with a big lot of toilet roll. And that was an ideal area for people to go. And it might not seem important, but I can tell you, when people come on buses and things, it is, oh, we're not going there because, and this is a fact. There was one down in Park Road, wasn't there? What was wrong with that? A bit old, antiquated, but we could have done it up. I think we've got to think about little things as well as big things, because a lot of people who want to come in, they are quite big things. And it's generally the older people. But one of the things which I have also always been saddened about, that we have a lot of small houses, low economy. This is always a problem. We were going to have Waitrose. Didn't have Waitrose because we hadn't got big enough houses. That's all it was when we were going to have Waitrose. So these sort of things, you mentioned culture and the country park. Now, there's an awful lot of country park that is never used. It is just a whole lot of rubbish and brambles, and it's not used. I mean, we're talking about acres here. I know because, and I'm not, it making any difference to me now because some of it's our land, and it's ridiculous when it's not used. And we ought to be looking, you ought to be looking at that. It's an area where it's really important. It might as well be used for the good of the town and the general public. You mentioned pie awards and things. We have to commend Matthew O'Callaghan. We do, because he has brought a massive amount to the town. And yeah, I do agree. We are a rural economy, and we are the rural capital of food, but we do lack it a bit. But I know there was a plan that was some years ago to have something going on in the marketplace, which we could talk about another time. I think that's about all. But with the cattle market, farmers have to work, really hard to keep going. And the cattle market is one area where the auctioneer there works his butt off all the time. He is probably one of the best auctioneers in the whole country. So that is why the cattle market works, because they have to make it work. Can't just play about, they actually have to make it work. And that's why it does. Thank goodness we managed to keep it. I was then asked about the library. Do we know if we're keeping the library? Because there's a loo at the library. Are we keeping it? Do we know? Well, it might be, but I just wanted to know, because I think that is an important thing, that people actually come in to go to the library. And right, I've finished.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. I don't know if you want to come back on any of those points, Lydia. Just on a point of information, I know the old toilet on Wilton Road is now a Turkish barber or Iranian, but there is actually a public toilet on Wilton Road right opposite Wetherspoons, where the coaches pull up, and it's been there for several years. It's a new one, yeah, near the bus stops. It's just on the point of information on that one, but you're right, quite right. The Park Lane one closed, which was not particularly good news for people using the park, which has no current public toilets in it. Anyway, let's not dwell on just the toilet issue. Did you want to come back on any of those points, Lydia?
I could talk all day about public toilets. They're a very important component of the visitor economy. And unlike other local authorities across the country, there has been investment in our public toilets. In relation to the country park, it is of importance. Open green spaces are really an important part for local residents, as they are for visitors. And there is an action plan being developed at the moment. And then finally, I hope that what's come across in our inward investment presentation this evening is a spirit of collaboration. So yes, absolutely. This is not down just to our team and the council. It's been how we've worked collaboratively with partners like Matthew O'Callaghan through to other organisations and businesses across Melton and the wider Leicestershire area.
Thank you. I will come to you in a moment, Councillor Chun. I'm just going to ask one of my questions, if I may, as we've been round. Otherwise, I'll have a monologue right at the end. And it's about the country park, actually. And I wouldn't entirely agree with what Councillor Holmes has said. I mean, part of the country park is about nature, not necessarily about every space being utilised by people. But in terms of integrating the country park, I mean, it says in the briefing note, it's actually linking the country park to the other assets in Melton. And I agree with that. I was in another small town recently, Evesham in Herefordshire, and they have a lovely country park. It also has a large retail offering and a restaurant and all sorts of things there. But the town centre has a large shopping precinct that only has one shop open in it now. And I think it's important we don't disperse the offer around the town. So in going back to the country park, what's noticeable about it is it only has one, if you like, I was going to use the term visitor centre. You know, it's got a small cafe with a toilet right at the top end. And then in terms of access to the town, you have a number of options. One is to walk through the delightful rural idyll of Snow Hill, and then all the industrial premises there, or you can take longer routes, you know, come down Doctors Lane, etc. So at the moment, there's not a link between the town and the country park, and such facilities as there are in the country park take people right to the other end. So I just wonder whether there is any thinking about how that could be changed over time, because I agree it should be integrated, but we don't want to insert new assets into the country park that take people away from the town. So I just like some idea of what the thinking is on that.
One of the reasons why we mentioned it this evening is that connectivity between green and blue spaces. So we've got the waterways in the town, we've got the country park, and how you make those connections. So there's some interesting buzzwords at the moment: green and blue corridors, active travel. So the development of the country park action plan is very much in line with what we're doing within the town centre and also across the borough. So linking in with kind of national cycling and walking routes as well, and how we're maximising that opportunity. The first step towards that action plan has been working collaboratively with local stakeholders and forming a steering group, and that's been a real conduit to what we want to achieve at the country park. So one of the ambitions is around green flag status, but some of those ambitions, that connectivity to a wider network, may be more medium and long term post probably local government reorganisation. So as part of that steering group, we've got organisations like the Environment Agency, Leicestershire Wildlife Trust, along with Leicestershire County Council. So we're laying the right foundations now for that future development, and to ensure that connectivity is not in isolation to the rest of the development and hopefully regeneration of the town.
Councillor Chill.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just going back to the point raised by Councillor Thwaites, I fully endorse that in terms of the ambition and having a target. I think it's something we should do and articulate. It's a really important message. And also going back to in terms of performance and measuring future, all of these initiatives, how they are translating. I think that is a really important aspect, and it's something that you and I have talked about in the measures, particularly around the job creation. So yes, if that can be considered, that would be good. I don't want to detract too much about Luz, but having just come back from New Zealand and getting of a certain age, I was particularly impressed by many of the urban areas in New Zealand have these very simple pods. And as a visitor, talking about a visitor economy, it is an important, and they work very well. And we don't seem to have those for whatever reason, in our towns and cities. But it's something we should do, I think. Anyhow, I will leave it at that point. But thank you.
Thing on a country park. There is a place, and you've never thought about this. It's on the top. It's up Doctors Lane, and it's an area where that's not wildlife. That's just rubbish. It's bramble. It's rubbish. You know.
We're not going to have a back and forth across.
That's all. But I just want to make it quite clear, because farmers make the countryside. Leaving it and doing nothing with it is dreadful.
Yeah, I think the point's well made. I was being slightly tongue-in-cheek saying that, and I apologise. But I think the country park is a mixture of environments. But whatever environments they are, they need to be properly managed. I think that's the point you're making, and I acknowledge that. Are there any other comments? I'm seeing Councillor Thwaites. Sorry, did you want to respond further on?
Just on the toilets, as it's my favourite.
So let's have another round of toilet.
Just an important component is also providing the right facilities for visitors and residents. So the investment into changing places is going into the stockyard and also improvements into those public facilities too. Thank you.
Vision, I think, at the stockyard is for new, improved and heated toilets. So hopefully that will be addressed. I'm not sure they'll go as far as heated seats, although if you want to put a bid in to the appropriate sources. Councillor Thwaites.
Oh, thank you. Come back again. And as we're on toilet talk, I might as well just briefly sort of say, I was going to talk about the country park. Just to add some other parts of it. Yeah, I think the toilets on the country park, the Sunnyside, yeah, that we mentioned, they're only available when Sunnyside's open. As we're talking about every business we can in Melton at the moment, but and that's probably something that should be looked at in improving. But the thing I just wanted to add that it wasn't sort of said. One of the things that we did do in planning with the Geldwen site. Was in the planning meetings that we had with the developer, which were very, very good, to get them to sort of work to a design that we wanted for the town, was to actually put 2 more access points into the country park from what is going to go on to the Geldwen site, so that there is a part of a country walk on their site as well, on the Geldwen site. So there will be extra accesses coming from the country park into the town through what is currently, the site, the Geldwen site. So I think, as we said, the collaboration within the planning and all the rest of it, and making sure we get that design type work done early on, the developers are very willing to do that. And I think that's a good point. Obviously, it's going to be a few years before that gets there, but everything's the same.
Tim, if I may say, what's important is this is being thought through now. So there's a clear, there's a clear path to improving that. Sorry, that sounds sort of a pun, isn't it? I'll go to Councillor Lumley. Another aside, just to keep the toilet talk going. Fortunately, when Sunnyside is closed, there are lots of overgrown areas with brambles in the country park if you're caught short. Well, that's right. We'll have to try and raise the tone of this discussion, I think. Councillor Lumley.
I just want to come back on some comments of Councillor Holmes, Thwaites, and yourself, Councillor Brown. Yeah, so I do agree with Councillor Brown. Obviously, the country park, the people certainly I agree with them. A lot of people I speak to, they just want it as it is now. The country park, they don't want. I know if you're going to the nearby country parks, there's a lot of things which they've added in, which I don't particularly like, and people like it as it is now, no change. They don't want it to be a town park, they want it to be a country park. That's key. So that's what else, personally, my view is on that. And I think Councillor Brown, that's what he sort of said. Just on what Alan Councillor Thwaites said, and I think this has been talked about over many years, but we always, I think Councillor Thwaites and the councillors, they all talk about with housing in this town and the borough, we've got to have jobs, we've got to have big, high, very high salary jobs in this borough, and I disagree. The people that I speak to, they have actually moved to Melton town area or the borough, the wider borough, the countryside, to have a job, quite close by. Within, I think we've got about 3 big cities quite close to us. People have come to live here to then have a commute. Now, recently, over the years, it's sort of, to come to work from home. Just Councillor Chubb, I know your role is obviously clearly going around the country in your role. I don't think you've moved to where you have to try and get a job where you can walk up the road to a job. A lot of people just involved, and I think a lot of officers here, they don't actually live in Melton. They've commuted to a high salary job, but they live in where they live. So what I don't want to see Melton go as is this sort of like high-rise building town where a bit like Pier. I can accept Piero's building to an extent, but that's it, nothing more. It's got to keep its sort of character. And I'm concerned the way this country is going, that a lot of these small towns and small villages are becoming very, very big. And people are saying to me, these towns which were once very small and nice, they're now getting huge. I'll just about support all of the housing that is going around Melton. I've gone to votes and full council. I voted for it. I'll support it with a bypass, because I do agree by and large. But any more than how Melton is going to expand in a minute, I wouldn't be able to support any more real expansion of this town. Like after 2036 is local plan, it'll be too big. And this talk about going into the actual grey belt, I'm not happy about. And then we start going into the actual green belt, we're going to start getting towns like very close together. So I just think we've got to keep our character of these towns around the country, including here. So if you want to have a good value job, either you work from home, you've got that within your job, or you have to commute. Just I think we all know we've got some very good road links from here, A46, M1, quite a few others. They are very good links to a lot of other places, often like dual carriageway, often like motorway. You've got 2 or 3 lanes. It isn't just all really poor country roads with lots of bends where you have to go at 50, 40. So I do think we've got to, personally, with my view is that if people come to live in Melton or the borough, I think it's for that country feel. That's all I'll say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lumley. I mean, you keep nicking things I've listed on my crib sheet. But I mean, it's interesting the point you make about I mean, the world does change. My newest neighbours, next door and next door, one to me, never go out to work. And they're younger people who work from home. And moved to Melton because it was affordable to move to Melton, was the motivation. And we're going to have a whole mix of people, aren't we, coming to live in this town. Some, as Councillor Lumley says, will commute. Many nowadays work from home. And some will be looking for work in the town and will come to live here because we've been successful in bringing in investment. I can see Councillor Gordon's hand up.
Thanks, Lou. It's just something that you said a bit ago about making improvements eventually to the toilets that we've already got. But we're back to it again. But will that mean increasing the cost of going to the toilet, because it's 50p and it's an awful lot for a lot of people to pay out? And and I just wondered, because yes, I think it's great to do the improvements, but I don't think that we should charge any more than 50p. Thank you.
Just to clarify, the improvements that I was talking about were at the stockyard, and there's no plans to put any pricing on the stockyard toilets.
Say that, so residents with strong bladders are advised to go up to the stockyard rather than use the town facilities. Are there any other councillor Holmes?
Yeah, I know I'm doing the wrong thing, aren't I? Well, Mr. Chairman, seeing that Trump is doing what he's doing, in 1900 in Melton, there were 2,000 horses in and around Melton. It may be that we will be actually needing the stockyard, needing all this area, because probably we won't have any fuel to come in, so we'll have to start horses again, horse and carriages or whatever. Their effluent goes on gardens, doesn't it? So they're pretty useful, really, and not toilet.
Thank you for that wisdom. When you mentioned President Trump and then you started to talk about horses, I wasn't sure where that was going to take us. But we'll leave to that. Are there any other? I'm afraid I do have a couple of other things I just wanted to raise from the briefing note. So yeah. I'll do another one, and it's actually about heritage. Actually, I'd already marked this up, but I had an interesting conversation there that touched on this. That one of the challenges around heritage buildings, if I use that loosest sense, is you can, as somebody said to me today, that if a business takes on a building of that sort, they know what they're getting into. But it must be a disincentive to businesses to take on properties of that sort if they're going to have to pick up excessive costs in terms of the maintenance of those buildings. And we know what happened with King Street, of course. So I'm curious as to what extent businesses willing to take on those sorts of properties. We want to see them preserved and we want to see them used productively, can get access to financial support as part of the package for that. I know we're looking at King Street in particular at the moment, but I thought in a wider sense, is there any funding that's available to support businesses in that situation?
So as you've mentioned about King Street, but that's one component of the heritage investment work that we're currently underway with at the moment. So there are a couple of strands to that work. One is looking at opportunities for public funds, so organisations like Historic England, National Lottery Heritage Fund, alongside smaller grant funding pots to support with the regeneration or facilitating use from heritage sites that enables a more sustainable use for that building. If I can come back when we've got our investment strategy in place, I think it would be helpful to provide a further update on that work. Alongside that, some of the utilising King Street as an example, the work that's been undertaken at the moment includes a viability assessment and a conservation deficit appraisal. Thank you. And that helps in terms of if we were to secure an investor into that property, so they have a really good understanding of the limitations of the building and then what the art of the possible is in terms of funding and investment that are required. But I think that's something that I would really welcome coming back to when we've developed that piece of work. And it's something I think that is quite an exciting piece of work that really resonates with celebrating the heritage and our stories of Melton, whilst looking at leveraging that investment in. Thank you.
Looking around, Councillor Holmes.
Behind, is it 6 King Street, that there's a grass area. Now the grass area is left there because there's all those ancient things underneath. Have we ever really looked at what there is underneath? Have we really looked at it? Because that could actually, I've always thought that could be really quite important. It could, you know, you can get grants, can't you, for looking at really, really old stuff. But that's why it's left. It can't be built on, can it? As far as I know, can it?
I'd have to come back to you on the detail, but yes, it's something that I could ask that piece of work to consider around what archaeological opportunities there are at Melton.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Thank you.
Fortunately, I've got some more then. I mean, this is just a curious observation. I remember very vividly, I think it was Lee did the briefing when he first became a councillor, and we were having all sorts of briefings, and he did a session on, you know, the local economy. And what struck me at the time was how far behind national average earnings we were. And then I'm looking at the figures that are you know, in this briefing note, which suggests there's been an uplift in that since we had that briefing. And I just wondered whether there was any particular underlying reason why that appears now to be the case.
Apologies. There has been an uplift. As to the reasons for that, I'll have to do a lot more work on assessing the underlying reasons, to be perfectly honest. It will be a myriad of different things coming together. You know, a combination of increased wage because of additional job creation. You know, in some instances when you've got economies of Melton scale, just larger employers that pay a lower wage leaving, artificially increases the average wage as well. So yeah, I'd have to do a lot more assessment, but we can definitely look into that.
Interesting to, if we can map that anymore. I mean, obviously, you know, potential increased affluence in the town feeds into, you know, the other strands that we're here talking about tonight in terms of the local economy, doesn't it? On the same note, on figures, again, you provided information on footfall and, you know, and the nearly 2 million visitors to the town, and that is the town, or is that the whole borough? Sorry.
The footfall data is relating to the town area specifically.
Town area. But I'm making the assumption, and I just want to be corrected, that's total footfall. So it doesn't tell us necessarily where those people have come from.
So we do get, if you're talking about specific footfall, that is total footfall, but we do get an analysis as to where they come into the town and where they come from and their movements through, because it can be tracked against the different footfall counters. If you're talking about the steam data, that is extrapolated from information across the borough. Yeah.
I was just curious about that because, you know, I mean, I could be in there. I tend to walk, you know, the 1.5 miles into town 4 or 5 days a week to spend money in the local economy, obviously. But and I'm not sure it matters particularly. What we want to know is got some very strange flashing lights on my microphone at the moment. Sorry, it distracted me. You know, what matters is that the town actually is getting people into it and are actually, you know, potentially spending in the local economy, isn't it? But it would be interesting to know what the proportion is, you know, from outside. Be assisted, and the microphone's working properly again now. And then finally, I just, and again, I'm just going to ramble on because I'm not seeing any hands up. Just scroll back to it. In terms of inward investment, I'm just curious. I mean, Councillor Lunley was referring to the, you know, you know, quite good transport links. I'm not sure I wholly agree. I mean, it's sort of 8 miles in any direction to a major trunk road, isn't it? And I just wondered to what extent, when you're talking to potential investors in the town, how strongly the transport links feature, and is there any evidence to show that where we sit in that network has led to decisions not to come here after all, or some reluctance to see Melton as a first choice?
We've had a very recent experience actually of an investor that is investing into a rural area of Melton and commenting at how well it is connected to the national kind of arterial routes. So M1, I think was mentioned, A46, and the fact that we have a train station. You know, I previously worked in Lincolnshire, and Melton is incredibly well connected compared to some of our competitors in the inward investment arena. But the experience that I've had recently speaking to inward investors is that actually Leicestershire and Melton is well placed in terms of its network. I don't know if Lee, you wanted to add anything.
No, I think you're right. It's definitely a consideration that businesses undertake. You know, we are, you know, in terms of when you're talking about anything around travel to work times or logistics or supply chain, you know, being less than half hour away from three different major inhabited areas, Nottingham, Leicestershire, and, you know, your Peterborough and Granthams and areas like that, does factor in their considerations, just purely from a kind of, you know, a pool of people that they could potentially employ perspective. For your kind of larger nationals, we've had conversations around, you know, not being far away from, you know, London in real time terms, you know, less than 2 hours. Also, airports are a big consideration as well. So, you know, we are quite well located. You know, I think within 4 hours drive, you can access 80% of the country. So, you know, in terms of, you know, when you're talking about access and, you know, links to arterial routes, we do fare quite well. So
I was just interested. I mean, I actually moved to Melton 23 years ago, partly for that reason for my work, although I then found myself allocated to Lincolnshire, which was the kind of took the shine off for a while. But no, I was just curious because there is a perception that we sit in a not particularly advantageous position, but clearly the experience with talking to potential investors is otherwise, which is encouraging. Thank you. I've got nothing further to add. Does anybody else want to raise any issues? Well, I'd like to thank the officers and all involved in tonight's presentation, but more importantly, all the ongoing work that's been going on. I think it's been very illuminating to get this report, and I'm sure we'll look forward to further updates and exciting good news when you're able to reveal it, Lydia. You know, we do understand the commercial sensitivities inhibit that sometimes, but hopefully not too distant future, we'll be hearing good things. Okay, thank you, everybody. There's no other business, so I will declare tonight's meeting closed. Thank you for attending.